Good evening, and welcome back. W.R. Frady here, and I'd like to welcome you to my first video of the new year. Even though it's about the middle of January now, I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season and an exciting New Year's celebration. For me, it was a time of research, reflection, rest, very much needed rest. But that's not important. What's important is in my research and in looking at what I was doing, I've decided that I needed to take a back step in what I'm doing in the map of Alderrhūn. So, as you may recall, before I was working on the naming conventions of where the names of the kingdoms and everything were going to be and what those kingdoms were going to be named, and as well as the major terrain features and landmarks. So what I've decided to do is, because I love the names that I've gotten, but I've also got some older names that I come across in compiling some of my material that are necessary and were originally slated for Alderrhūn that I'm going to be working with. And it got me to thinking that perhaps it wouldn't hurt to go in and create the borders and boundaries of these realms to see where one realm ends and the next one begins. In the real world, we have those kind of borders and boundaries to stay where our territory and the next begins. We call them property lines, we call them county lines, we call them state lines. So country borders, national borders, and so forth. So that is something I think I need to step back and redo. Again, I'm using the tracing paper like I had used before as an overlay so that I could create these borders without damaging the main map and end up having to constantly replace the map every time I mess up. I can replace the tracing paper much easier, but I can also use it to establish what I need to establish. Which, if the music you hear in the background is music by Celestial Aeon Project, Alderrhūn, and a host of other fantasy artists that I have on a playlist specifically for world building and writing and design. So anyway, without dragging everything out here in front of the bookshelf, let's flip you around and get you over to the table where the actual work is being done. All right. All right. Now, as you can see, you can look here and see the overlay where all the kingdoms and stuff are, like we've done and discussed and talked about before. I'm going to take you off here just a second. Whoops. I'm going to kick the tripod while I'm at it. Okay. And then pull you off here. And as you can see, you could probably recognize that there are other names and other of kingdoms and things that have been put in. Now, some of these names may be moved, it may be taken or repurposed for something else. However, you see where that is begin. You can see underneath the red lines of what I'm getting ready to show you. So let me do that now. I'm going to set this back here. Now, you can see the red lines. I'm using just a simple red colored pencil on this so that it can be erased if I mess up. Believe me, if you look close enough, you can probably see where I've messed up a few times. But that's what this is all about. That's what this tracing paper is for. If I mess up on this tracing paper, and I smudge or do something like that, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not ruining the map at large. This is what this is for. This lets me be able to experiment. It lets me be able to make mistakes and mess up without the cost of having to get this whole new map reprinted. Don't get me wrong, I could get it reprinted, but I've also done a lot of changes on the digital form of the map, including turning this into an icy realm up here still with forests and lakes, but the terrain is is ice covered, ice capped, tundra, kind of like what you would expect in the northern reaches, in the mid to northern reaches of Canada, Alaska, Siberia, Russia, and that area. Is like it's getting close to the polar regions. So, and with that will also come the lengthy day to night ratios like you would see up toward the polar regions. Here, and then I've turned this into with grasslands and prairies and stuff. I've added newer details on the digital, but that'll be a subject for a whole other time. For now, let's let that squirrel go climb its tree, and let's get back to the discussion of the borders. See, like right here is the realm of Dragon's Den. Had Dragon's Den not had these borders, Dragon's Den could have been right here, or it could have spread out down here, or it could be up here. We don't know where its borders lay, where Dragon's Den began, and what is it called? The Shires of what? Yes. The Shires of Sildar may be right here. But see, where would Dragon's Den begin and the Shires of Sildar begin? Where would Dragon's Den begin? And, what kingdom might or realm might be right here? Or, does Dragon's Den go into the mountains and beyond up here into this area? Or, so that's the whole purpose of creating these borders. But not just that, by sectioning off these territories, it lets me know also how many realms this continent of Zendora has. Now, let's treat the continent of Zendora for Alderrhūn is kind of like the known world. This is the world that everybody knows. This might be vast. There might be lands out to the east. There might be lands further east that we may never hear about because nobody from here has traveled this way, or at least not enough people that it's well known what it is. So this is the known world. Who knows what's this way? No one knows what's that way. We do know, and this is established, that the Alderrhūn that gives the world its name, which is the covenant, which is the mark on the world, that is the covenant between the gods of Alderrhūn and the Primordians, that it's somewhere off in the outer reaches of uncharted realms. So, that being said, I need to know how many regions and territories and realms this continent of Zendora, this known world, has. With that, I can go through and number them and go to a notebook, a clipboard, something that I can sit there and take and work on the names and get them arranged on where I want those particular names to be, while testing them out like I do with this. And therefore being able to see how the layout of Zendora is going to be. Now, like I've explained before, when it comes to the realms just are not going to be just randomly named. Now, while I'm not going to go into the incredibly insane detail that I'm doing with the world of Aerith and Ballador, which, by the way, I did do this with Ballador back when I first created the continent of Alderrhūn. And when the continent of Alderrhūn was just the centerpiece that I now call Lornheart, which is the center. There's the southern, the northern, and the center. But the heart of Alderrhūn, I did this same technique of making all the borders for those kingdoms so that I would know what kingdoms and where. And by numbering them and laying them out, that was how I worked and did it. So I've just incorporated an older technique that I used for world building into this one on a grander scale to make this much more organized in its creation. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking at the idea of a realm now. So while we're doing this, I'm going to show you a little what I'm doing. I've already got that part off. So I can show you a little bit what I'm doing. Okay. We're going to take where this river right here is going to come up, and we're going to take it and we're going to come around. We're going to follow it around. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the river kind of like is done with old world maps, and the way that cartographers and things would do in olden days is they would lay out a boundary based on natural features. So I'm using the river here as that natural boundary and border for this realm. And there's that one. And we're going to use the same with this lake right here. And it's going to come up and connect up here. And now look, I've got an entire realm right here that I have now got a name to be able to name for. I've got forest and a bay for natural resources. I've got rivers for travel and mercantile. So there's a lot. You know, the fun thing is about world building is that growing up, when you were doing social studies and you were learning about how cities had to be near water, certain cities had to be near water and the resources that would give them commerce so that they could stand strong and thrive. Well, all of that comes into play in world building, and you realize, okay, you know, for the ecology of a city to work, you can't, you know, like right here, if I was to put a city near this forest, it would be able to have great lumber industry with seafaring, with rivers to carry the logs and the resources downriver. You'll have a lake here, so there's going to be towns probably right here along these areas. So you got lakes here that can have fishing, have freshwater fishing. Then you got, you know, whatever fishing and stuff could be done out here along in this bay area. And then, you know, you've got trade between this realm and this realm. Again, more river-based for keelboat, flatboat, that kind of mercantile system going back and forth. Then you're going to have trade routes that could go to everything. You've got access to resources that create an ecology for a city to either thrive or struggle or even just be beginning. You know, you're not going to find a seaport, and this is obvious, but you're not going to find a seaport right here in the middle of the land where there's forest nearby. No, but this forest can create the lumber needed to build ships here in the sea area, in the seaport in this area, to where it fuels for ships and the industry for the seafaring peoples here. And same can be said for see how this one doesn't have this forest anywhere nearby this lake. This forest is right here, so they could take and be taking lumber and supplies and selling it over here on this side of the lake, giving them commerce and trade. And this side may have grains and other crops and stuff they could use in trade for that. So it creates an interdependent system that is basically allows the realm to thrive and have something that it specializes in. And that's something you actually need, in not just in a fantasy world, but you need it in a real world. You need commercial, you need residential, you need commercial, you need residential, you need I'm trying to think of the word for it, but basically not the commerce, but where the leadership, the government and stuff blocks. You need those three things to establish and run a good, solid town. You got to have your government system, whether it's a mayor, a boyar, a baron, a duke, some kind of noble or minor aristocracy for a small town. Then beneath them, you'll have the lawmakers and the law enforcement, but then you'll have the commerce, which is the products and sources that, whether it's fish, whether it's lumber, whether it's minerals and resources, whether it's crops, you'll have your commerce and industry. Then you'll have your residential, which is your people and your inhabitants, and that trifecta is what will actually be the most important in establishing and running not just a good city, but an overall kingdom, realm, and further out. So yeah, if you actually need kind of a lending of a hand when it comes to how to build your worlds, look no further than your elementary school, middle school, high school, yeah. Let me learn to talk too while I'm at it. Anyway, but no, your elementary, middle school, high school, geography and socioeconomics and stuff like that, and look at the social studies books and look at how the land and the resources will affect the overall area where a city or town or even a kingdom or such is located, and how it affects their growth and what they're able to do and maintain, how much they're able to grow, whether they're going to thrive, whether they're going to barely make it. Those things all play into effect. And that actually comes in handy when it comes to building a world. Because, you can't expect everything to rely just on magic. Magic helps. Magic actually bridges numerous. The fact of that, the presence of magic bridges numerous different ages. You might have medieval level castles with Renaissance level libraries and learning for sages, for wizards, and so forth. But then, because of magic, and the way that it focuses more on trade, your seaports might be as advanced as the 16th and 17th century. So with great galleons and such that are made to handle the seafaring cities and the peoples that dwell out and have to run the seas more. So, and then you might, way out here in the steppes, you may have is something as barbaric as, old Mongolia and the Huns and the Huns and stuff like that. It's something way back when you had the grassland and tribal folk with the Celts and so forth. So, yeah, so magic helps to bridge all that gap and make an overall much broader spectrum of the medieval Renaissance Baroque milieu that is being presented. Okay, now that we have chased that squirrel too, I'm just wanting to bring you down here closer to let you take a look at these borders, including the one I just built, the one I just made. Okay, there's the one I just did, and where we were talking about how it follows the river, and that becomes the natural borders. Also using the forest as the natural border this way, alongside the river. And naturally, the coast is going to be its own. That island could be a part, like an annex of this realm, or it could be its own independent place. So, or its own independent kingdom or whatnot. And as you see, let me move this out of the way. As you can see, it goes right along and creates, established borders for the realms and territories in such a way that we can begin to see the world taking shape as far as where the locales, places, names. Okay, like for example, before I jump off of here, actually I'm gonna bring you back down here close. Like right here, you have Windrun. Windrun is in Arundel, and then I'm wanting to say this one is, I've got another one for this, Windaria or anything like that. Windaria is one of the months of Aerith. But these areas, because of the prevailing winds that will be channeled through this area, coming in off of the coast, possibly coming down the Sleeping Dragon Mountains, and right here in this mountains coming in. So this breeze section, you're going to have not only some flatlands, but with the presence of the breeze and it being channeled through, you're going to also probably see a lot of wind-based industry, like with windmills and wind-powered grist mills, and perhaps kites that are flying above the cities to show not only the direction but the intensity of the wind, and things that you might even see more air elemental based stuff because of the winds in this area. But and that pretty much would differ from down here, where you got a lot of rivers and lakes that may produce more water mills and water mill based industries. And again, like we were talking about with the waterways being as travel and commerce, and for sending goods downstream to market and stuff. So there you have another, you've got water based, you've got wind based, you've got forest and lumber based, and in any number of other things. You've got the mountain realms. You may have you're going to have iron and ore and gems and jewels and that kind of stuff coming out of the mountains, especially when you've got gnomes and dwarves that are working and living and working and fashioning in the mountains, that are producing goods and things that cannot be attained anywhere else in the kingdom. You've got this the Great Sea of Coralline, that may provide its complete own, it might be like a complete nation of its own here in the outer rims, outer coastal areas of it. And as you see, there are multiple realms and territories there. So you're going to have a lot of interchanging commerce and trade and such here, along with fishing, and there's just so much more that can be done, because these borders are being established to show what's where and what might be able to funnel. Like, again, up here you may have with the marshes here, you may get peat, and you may get other crops. You might get some lumber and some minerals that might trade in from here, or it could be trading minerals and diamonds and gold in from these mountains and come across here. Or maybe they're bringing some of the mineraled water. Maybe someone has got mineraled water from the baths of Wallandria, and so forth. It's just, there's a whole world of opportunity that is opened up by doing this, and a whole world of creativity that can be done in so doing. So, now that you've gotten to see a little bit of what I'm doing, now when I say that I was stepping back and kind of redo some things, it wasn't a stepping back as in to step back and go in reverse. It was taking a step back, taking what I've already had established, moving it aside and saying, okay, before I can go forward, I need to establish this so I know more of what I'm going to need to move forward in a more adequate and more navigable way. Excuse me. So, as we continue to work and build on Alderrhūn, we're going to get back into the naming conventions. We're going to get back into the working on the mountain ranges, the forests, the swamps, the other land and territory terrain features that will be more than evident on the map, as well as major scenes, sites, and such. And when I am done, I would like to be able to see it's something that can actually be used potentially with Dungeons and Dragons, Castles and Crusades, Pathfinder, Hackmaster, in any of whatever your favorite role-playing system is. I'd like to see that this could be incorporated with those in that sense. But there's a bigger, there is something bigger for that I want with it, and the rest of it is just kind of like the perks of that come with that. Anyway, I hope that you take a look at what I was talking about how your locations, your resources, and all that will affect your cities, your towns, your seaports. How the resources and trade can make or break your realm. The three definite places: your government, your commercial, and your residential areas. Commercial/industrial, but those three things are what's going to those are the three elements you have to have a working society in a town, village. We don't have to be grand and huge, but it does have to be there. You do have to have established leadership. You do have to have someone to not only establish leadership and law, but to enforce and regulate that law. But then you also have to have the commerce and the people to basically run it all. That has to be there to engage in the commerce, to be the producers and the sellers and the common folk that make a city believable, needed, worth it, that is going to make the city either thrive or sink. You know, those very same people are the ones that can either bring it up into the levels of golden ages and silver ages and turn a small town into a great metropolis or megalopolis at some point, or can make it fall into decadence and ruin and make it a hive of scum and villainy, for in the words of Star Wars and Ben Kenobi. So how that structure is done, all of that is going to give your towns purpose, your towns, your villages, your kingdoms, your realms, purpose, theme, atmosphere, mood. It's going to set the entire overlay of everything that is going to be going on, including how people and strangers are received into those realms, into those areas. Anyway, I think I have explained more than I need to at some point, and I could probably sit here all night and continue on. But if I know you've got things you guys want to do, I know I've got some stuff I need to finish doing. So I would like to thank you for joining me again here on my first video back after the break, my first video of 2026. And I look forward to seeing you again the next time. If I can get the 50 followers, I can eventually start going live and doing these live where I can answer some questions and talk about what I'm doing while I'm doing it. But until then, just continue to stay tuned. Watch, like, follow, sub. If you know anyone who enjoys the kind of thing that I'm doing, fantasy, world building, writing, talking about lore and worldcraft, hey, I'd love for you to send them my way. Get a subscribe, have them like, and I hope to see you again soon. This is W.R. Frady saying have a good night, and we'll see you next time.